Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we plunge into the heart of complex ideas to extract the most insightful nuggets.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're looking at a really rich and, frankly, quite provocative collection of reflections, stuff on religion, morality, and what it genuinely means to live authentically in a world just saturated with conflicting messages.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. Our mission in this deep dive is essentially to guide you through this fascinating array of personal insights and observations. These come from our listener sources.
Right.
We'll be critically examining, well, everything from the subtle pitfalls of perfectionism in our creative lives, all the way to the really profound questions stirred up by suffering and, pervasive societal pressures.
And the goal here is to connect these seemingly disparate dots, isn't it? To unpack the why behind these observations.
Exactly, and hopefully encourage you, the listener, to think deeply about your own perspective as we explore this material together.
Because we're not just skimming the surface here. This is a deep dive.
Definitely. We're embarking on a journey, really, to understand the underlying arguments and implications in these sources.
It's going to challenge a lot of common assumptions, I think.
It will. And hopefully foster a stronger sense of individual discernment. We're covering a lot of ground today.
Yeah, from personal struggles with creative block
to the big societal implications of modern dating trends.
Yeah.
And even the heartbreaking realities of global conflict, all through the unique lens of these contributions.
Okay, let's unpack this. So let's start with something I think many of us can intimately relate to, that creative struggle. Our source brings up this really insightful observation that perfectionism often becomes less about pursuing excellence and more like a self-imposed barrier.
Right. It actually stops us from starting, let alone finishing, the projects we care about.
Exactly. And the core idea of the source champions here is, well, it sounds simple, but it's profoundly difficult for many people to internalize.
Which is
that the sheer act of starting holds far more power than the endless, often paralyzing pursuit of a perfect plan or that ideal moment.
Think about it, right? How many brilliant ideas have just withered because we were waiting for the right time or for flawless execution?
All the time. Our source argues true momentum isn't found in meticulous planning, but in that messy, imperfect act of just beginning.
And this is such a crucial distinction. What's fascinating is the nuanced understanding of perfectionism that comes out here.
How so?
Well, it's not always about striving for genuine, top-tier quality in our work.
Yeah.
Sometimes the source suggests it's just your mind trying to stop you from completing it.
So like self-sabotage.
Precisely. A subtle, almost insidious form. A clever trick our minds play to kill progress before it even gets going.
By constantly delaying, over-planning, endlessly revising before it even gains traction.
We effectively prevent our ideas from ever seeing the light of day. It becomes this sophisticated excuse, doesn't it, to avoid the vulnerability that comes with creating something.
That's a powerful reframing, because it suggests the real enemy isn't necessarily excellence itself, but maybe a deep-seated fear of inadequacy.
Yeah, cleverly masquerading as the pursuit of the ideal.
And the source puts this into perspective, reminding us that even the greatest artists in the past have unfinished paintings hidden away, pieces they never quite showed the world.
That really hits home. Even the masters, the paragons of creativity, face these same internal battles.
So the key takeaway here for all of us, really, is that the message, the essence of what you want to create or say, is often more important than absolute, unattainable perfection.
There's that great quote from the source: the purpose of the first draft is not to get it right, but to get it written.
Exactly. Get the core idea out there, whatever form it first takes. Embrace the iteration.
Which raises a really important question for you listening. How often do you delay a project, a goal, maybe even a simple task, just waiting for an ideal that never actually materializes?
Is our pursuit of perfect sometimes just a comfortable, maybe limiting fear? Fear of exposing our imperfect selves or our work to the world.
It often becomes a convenient excuse, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Avoids the vulnerability, the potential criticism, keeps us safe in that comfort zone, but ultimately hinders growth.
Absolutely. That comfort zone.
Absolutely.
It can quickly become a cage. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. From these very personal, internal creative blocks to a different kind of resistance.
External interference.
Exactly. Our source describes a truly fascinating pattern of what they perceive as interference when trying to share important, often challenging information. This is where it gets really interesting.
Oh.
Speaker A shares a very personal, compelling experience during the peak of the pandemic. They were actively posting stuff about the pandemic thing.
Right, stuff critical of the mainstream narratives.
Yeah, specifically calling out what they termed the media and big pharma. It wasn't casual chat. It was a deliberate effort to expose what they saw as crucial hidden truths about health decisions.
And the specific examples are quite vivid, illustrating this perceived interference.
They are. While recording a video about ingredients and stuff related to their critique, they encountered direct insults thrown at me.
Wow. But it wasn't just verbal attacks.
No, they recount pausing the recording to help someone who asked for assistance. But as they rushed back to finish, the same person who sought help made this offhand but really insulting remark. Why are you rushing? You don't have anything to do.
Ouch. That feels targeted, especially in that context.
Deeply unsettling, and the interpretation of these events is absolutely central here. Speaker A views these not as random annoyances or coincidences,
But as deliberate blocks from the system.
exactly, or even provocatively encounters with random NPCs in your path to get you triggered or get an emotion out of you.
NPCs. Non-player characters. That's quite a framing.
For them, these aren't chance occurrences. They're seen as a powerful sign that whatever you are doing, it is important. Like the universe, or some system, confirming the significance by throwing up obstacles.
It's almost a validation through resistance.
Kind of.
What's really fascinating and quite provocative is this idea of encountering NPCs in real life. Not literally robots, obviously,
Right, it's a metaphor.
but rather that the source perceives a pattern where individuals, when faced with uncomfortable truths or information challenging deep beliefs, react not with thought, but with what feels like a pre-programmed response.
Like an automated defense mechanism.
Could be cognitive dissonance or a strong subconscious need for social conformity. They might default to dismissal or hostility rather than engaging with a substance. It's like following an invisible societal script.
To maintain the status quo.
Precisely. Speaker A illustrates this further when they shared videos related to the medical stuff with their own circle, instead of engaging with the message about health decisions.
People checked the whole channel and mocked it, subscribing out of dismissive curiosity.
Exactly. Completely missing the actual vital message about making informed choices.
And you can feel the frustration. They weren't seeking views or subscribers.
No, they explicitly state they wanted them to think and avoid the shot. Genuine concern for their health.
Yet the message went over their head, replaced by superficial judgments. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is there a collective discomfort with questioning deeply held beliefs?
It often feels easier to dismiss the messenger than grapple with an inconvenient truth. Have you ever noticed similar patterns yourself? Trying to share something against the grain only to be met with dismissal or hostility.
Oh, absolutely. The shoot the messenger tendency.
It's a common psychological defense, which raises the question, is our society, with its current info consumption habits, really equipped for rigorous, independent, critical engagement?
Or do we prefer the comfort of unchallenged narratives, however flawed?
It seems that way sometimes.
That's such an incisive point because, as the source also highlights, how we consume information plays a massive role. There's a strong critique of passive consumption, expecting information given to you in a video format with cool animation, sound effects.
The idea that knowledge should always be easy, instant, entertaining.
Right. But the source issues this powerful call to action. Learn to read articles, books, and stuff like that. Sometimes the important stuff will be boring.
Just text on screen, text on paper. You have to actually read it.
It's not just about the medium, is it? It's a call to develop critical thinking skills beyond passively receiving info, actively seeking, scrutinizing, synthesizing knowledge.
Absolutely essential for navigating the complex truths and competing narratives today.
Okay, this next segment, it takes us right into the core of existential questions. Anchored by a deeply personal, poignant anecdote that challenged fundamental beliefs.
Let's hear it.
Our source recounts the story of an old lady, a really kind person, described as exceptionally religious,
How so?
prayed constantly, carried a holy book everywhere, gave money, paid percentages, prayed daily, basically, did all the things the book told her to do. A truly devout follower.
A life dedicated to the path of her religion, it sounds like.
Completely. Yet the tragedy that befell her in her last years complicates everything, forces a reevaluation.
What happened?
She had a debilitating accident, she broke her back, and from then on, she suffered a lot. Crucially, no medicine helped. Not allopathy, siddha, Ayurveda.
Nothing worked.
Nothing. And perhaps most poignantly, the source notes, not even the gods she worshipped her whole life offered any solace or relief.
Wow. So she was just left suffering.
Bedridden, suffering the whole time until she passed away. This stark discrepancy between unwavering devotion and prolonged, agonizing suffering, it just shakes the source's foundation of belief.
Understandably. So what does this mean?
Yeah.
If she was so devout, followed every rule, why such a terrible end? You can hear the anguish in the source's telling.
Absolutely. And the reaction from those around her, fellow religious adherents, is especially revealing.
What did they say?
Instead of questioning the divine or the justice of it all, they blamed her past, suggested she probably did something bad in her past before becoming religious.
Trying to justify the suffering within their belief system, to make sense of it without shattering their worldview.
Even her own daughter offered this explanation, which the source found incredibly painful, shocking.
It creates a profound contradiction, doesn't it? This God was supposed to forgive everyone, and she'd committed her life seemingly repented.
Right, yet her past, even if minor, the source speculated may be an alcoholic person in the past, nothing malicious was still used to explain her painful end.
It challenges that idea of absolute forgiveness. Why would minor past issues negate grace and lead to such agony?
The source sees it as a central challenge to divine justice, unconditional love.
And their outrage is palpable. You mentioned they said, I got really angry about this, shouting, why couldn't this God give a proper death?
Yes, questioning a God who can give golden houses, golden floor in heaven couldn't give a peaceful passing. It highlights the huge disconnect between grand promises and brutal reality.
Which leads to a broader observation about death and religious belief.
Exactly. If all the religious people are going to heaven and it's a wonderful place, why are loved ones at funerals miserable, crying?
If heaven is 100 times better with golden buildings, golden roads, big white wings, halos, why the intense grief?
The source bluntly says, missing someone is not good enough to cry like that. Directly challenging the comfort derived from these promises in the face of raw human emotion.
It's just a profound, maybe irreconcilable disconnect between the promised afterlife and the visceral human experience of loss.
It really raises the question, are these beliefs truly providing comfort, or are they a coping mechanism that doesn't fully square with reality?
It seems, from the source's perspective, the overwhelming human emotional response often overrides the theological explanation, reveals a deeper tension.
Which naturally leads one to wonder, what do people actually do in this promised heaven?
Good question, did the source ask.
They did, engaged with religious individuals, and the common answers were surprisingly superficial. Gold everywhere, perfect sky, big wings.
Material descriptions.
Yeah.
But beyond that, the actual experience.
Vague, uncertain. I'm going to worship the God, have prayers, play around, I don't know. No concrete, fulfilling vision beyond generalized praise. The source finds it unconvincing.
And the argument presented is that these vague yet appealing descriptions, they're a form of manipulation.
Or, as they provocatively term it, a scam. The source suggests whatever the people of the particular country wanted, it will be in their version of heaven.
A psychological tailoring of the afterlife, designed to fit desires, aspirations, cultural values, make it enticing.
They use that powerful illustration. If iron were rare and valuable in a fictional world, heaven would have iron everywhere. Iron on the road, iron on the buildings.
Highlighting heaven not as a divine blueprint, but a reflection of earthly desires projected onto a celestial plane.
Serving primarily as a mechanism for coping with a world the source describes as so fucked up that the only way to make them feel happy is to promise them a better life after death.
The conclusion drawn is stark. Religion is not for thinking people.
Oof. That brings us to another powerful critique. What they call the Christian sacrifice logic problem.
Okay, let's hear this.
The source directly challenges the core Christian narrative of atonement, asking, who did God sacrifice his child to? Himself.
The narrative being, God comes as human, sacrifices himself to forgive humanity.
Which the source dismisses as, what kind of nonsense is this? They question why an all-powerful, forgiving God would require such a convoluted, violent process.
Why the need for a burnt offering, a child offering, or Jesus as a human offering, if divine forgiveness is truly unconditional?
That's the core question. If true forgiveness is given freely, an act of grace and love, Why is some kind of killing involved, some kind of bloodshed involved?
Why wouldn't an ultimate omnipotent God just say, okay, whatever, I forgive you people, instead of this elaborate violent narrative?
And then send those who don't buy this specific story to eternal damnation. It questions the divine character being presented.
The conclusion drawn by the source is exceptionally provocative.
It is. They state, forcefully, there is no villain in your religion. You know that, right? The only villain is your God.
Wow. A radical reinterpretation. Focusing on the judgmental aspects, portraying God as the one sending all the people to hell.
Continuing, something is messed up in his head. He's not normal. He cannot forgive people until there is some kind of bloodshed.
A direct challenge to a supposedly loving God.
Which leads right into the critique of the choice presented, worship and go to heaven, or don't and go to hell.
The source argues it's not a choice, actually.
How do they illustrate that?
With that powerful robber analogy, imagine a robber with a gun offering two options. Give him everything and walk away, or he shoots you, kills you, then takes everything.
In both scenarios, you're going to get robbed. Not a genuine choice, the outcome is negative and forced.
The crucial element missing is a real third option, like hold on to everything you have and run away or scream. Most people would take that.
Seeking autonomy, preservation. Exactly. And the religious parallel, they argue, follows suit. If there were the third option, maybe do your thing, live your life, no worship needed, and after death, just non-existence.
The source posits most people will pick the third choice,
suggesting people often choose heaven primarily because they are too afraid of hell, not out of genuine desire to be around that person, the God described as narcissistic, self-centered, idiotic.
Framing the choice as driven by fear, not free will or devotion.
So if the options are controlled, it's not actually a choice, it's a scam.
This analogy really strips away the divine mystique, exposes the power dynamics, reduces a sacred decision to a forced choice with undesirable outcomes, rationally speaking.
They even question the fate of those who never heard of these religions or young children. Are they also condemned? Highlighting the perceived arbitrary cruelty.
Which brings us to that truly unsettling part.
The Jeffrey Dahmer point, yeah. Highlighting what they see as profound manipulation.
The scenario. Dahmer converted to Christianity in jail before his passing. So technically, the serial killer is in heaven running around, worshiping, kissing your God's ass. Provocative.
Designed to highlight a profound inconsistency and the justification often offered by religious people.
Yes, he's in heaven, but God erased his memory, so he's a good person now.
An explanation that seems to sidestep the moral implications by invoking divine intervention that conveniently alters someone's essence.
It raises that question about divine forgiveness and justice. If a serial killer can reach heaven via late conversion and memory wipe, what does that say about the moral compass of the system itself?
The source argues it shows how religious manipulation goes really deep, preventing critical thought, even in adults, about such contradictions, forcing a suspension of logic.
Definitely. And the source challenges the listener directly. Why would you want to go to a heaven where serial killers are run around? Why desire that afterlife?
Arguing the only options presented are question this stuff and go to hell, or go to heaven and play with Jeffrey Dahmer. A stark, almost absurd framing.
To expose the logical inconsistencies and moral compromises believed to be embedded within.
Which leads us perfectly into the idea of developing personal morality without these external, often contradictory religious dictates.
Right. The source pivots, suggesting we don't need them. Indeed, the source powerfully states, you don't need a religion, need a book to tell you that you shouldn't tell lies, shouldn't steal things, shouldn't cheat, you treat people right, treat parents right. You already know that naturally. You already have a natural moral code.
An innate sense of right and wrong.
And what's fascinating is the accompanying argument that religious books, far from being universal moral guides, can paradoxically make you hate other religious people.
How so?
By fostering divisions, creating artificial categories of chosen people and others, suggesting these frameworks can ironically undermine innate compassion by introducing tribalism.
That's a crucial, provocative point. And the source draws that interesting parallel between certain religious figures and modern self-help gurus or brothers selling lifestyles.
Referring to that specific unnamed figure, implied to be Andrew Tate.
Right. Describing them as an evil person, a pimp, who sells his courses, the $50 monthly subscription package, the cryptocurrency and stuff.
Critiquing the hypocrisy, the superficiality, arguing just because he said believe in yourself, be a man, doesn't make him a good person. He did a lot of evil things. challenging the idea that pronouncements or achievements whitewash a compromised history.
And that Jeffrey Epstein analogy is powerful. Imagine if Epstein, having did all the evil things, started promoting masculine stuff and got a huge following.
The question, how can people ignore his past, forces confrontation with the danger of judging solely on current image, ignoring undeniable harm.
It connects to that broader critique of materialism too, right? Do you actually want it, or do you want others to see you having it?
Exactly. Challenging whether pursuits are driven by genuine fulfillment or just external validation, which these gurus often peddle.
A call for authenticity over superficiality. True leadership, the source argues, comes from character, integrity, depth.
Not figure-selling lifestyles built on questionable foundations. Read philosophy, or find a decent person with leadership skills, not a pimp.
Seek substance over superficiality. Genuine wisdom over manufactured bravado. Okay, shifting focus now to relationships, intimacy.
A different but equally vital aspect of connection.
The source offers a powerful perspective on modern dating, true intimacy. Core advice: stop fighting. You are on the same team.
Simple but important. Focus on working out issues together collaboratively, not comparing your relationship to others, especially online.
Which immediately critiques social media's influence. The source observes, lots of people who post couple selfies, most of them are not actually happy, just promoting this fake lifestyle online.
A widespread facade and illusion obscuring complex realities.
True love, they suggest, isn't the biggest expensive gift or constant public displays. It's about being present, fixing issues together, living authentically, not comparing to highlight reels.
And here's where it delves into a critical aspect: the meaning of intimacy.
Yes. Strongly emphasizing intimacy is a really important thing. It's the closest you can get to a person. It's an act of love. Not just physical, but a profound connection.
And from this view, a strong critique of hookup culture.
You cannot just do that to a random person and act like it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. Even without religious belief, you are creating connection with random strangers.
Which can have unseen emotional, psychological consequences. Society, they argue, normalized smoking, alcohol, and now it's normalizing hookup culture, presenting it as casual, consequence-free.
The source believes it's anything but. Using that example of the teenage girl laughed at by friends for wanting to fall in love with one person and marry that one person alone shows how bad the situation is.
It raises that important question. What are we truly valuing in partners and relationships now?
Parents, the source argues, should step in and give advice to their kids, especially teenagers, guiding them through these shifting norms.
The emphasis should be on characters instead of their job title, their salary. Money shouldn't be a matter here when it comes to marriage. Advocating for partnership based on intrinsic qualities, kindness, loyalty, shared values, not external status.
And that flex fallacy is directly challenged.
Right. The idea that being with a lot of women, sleeping with a lot of women a flex is debunked. It only shows that you are not capable of holding or being in one relationship.
Flips the script on perceived power or attractiveness. Suggests true strength lies in commitment, fidelity.
The real flex, they assert, is having a solid partnership. A person that loves you, stays with you, is loyal, and has your back. That's a flex. You have struck gold.
In stark contrast, sleeping around is not fulfilling in any way. Leaves one empty. A powerful endorsement of lasting connection over fleeting encounters.
Now, for those navigating the painful aftermath of a breakup, the source offers very direct, maybe even shockingly blunt advice.
Okay, what's the approach? It's no nonsense, almost radical, the metaphor.
Yeah.
If you had a breakup and really want to move on, just think the person died and move on. That's the best way.
Wow. Stark imagery. The intention is a clean, decisive break. Severing ties, avoiding prolonged emotional entanglement.
Exactly, a psychological severing. And the practical steps are equally blunt. Block them everywhere. Delete all the pictures. Hold a funeral in your mind.
Total avoidance. Do not go online and look for them. Do not do all the weird stuff. Just let the dead alone. Leave the dead alone.
Cut off all avenues for rekindling feelings, revisiting the past, unhealthy obsessions. It encourages a decisive, intentional act of moving forward.
And highlighting that common coping mechanisms like alcohol, drugs, sleeping around will not be helpful in any way or form.
This decisive mental and physical separation is presented as the most effective path to healing, regaining personal autonomy.
It's a stark approach, certainly, but aimed at creating that complete break needed for a clearer path forward. Recentering on the self.
This deep dive now takes a particularly powerful, poignant turn. with a spoken word poem from the source.
Okay.
It encapsulates so many questions we've explored, especially in the heartbreaking context of global suffering. The core questions are raw, searing. Where was your God when bombs were dropped? Where was your God when people starved to death?
Powerful stuff.
Where was your God when the innocence of children was taken? Where was your God when ancestors were sold off into slavery? Where was your God? Where is he? Where are they? A direct challenge to divine inaction in the face of immense human pain.
It doesn't just question presence, but also religious ritual itself.
Yes, asking, are the praises and worship and songs not good enough? Isn't the blood enough? How long should kind people suffer? What do you want from us? Exposing the perceived futility of devotion when no intervention seems to occur.
And it rejects false hope.
Critically questioning, what good is a God if all he can give is false hope of a future and afterlife? A profound rejection of manipulative promises, deferred gratification used to cope with present suffering.
And it revisits that idea of false choices.
Powerfully, stating, fear of death and hellfire cannot hold a thinking mind. Lays out the religious choices, it critiques heaven versus hell, then immediately introduces that third option.
Existence after death.
Live your life, then death non-existent. Don't have to go to heaven or hell. Sounds good, right? It closes defiantly. It's not a choice at all. Enough with all the religious scams. No more of your gods. I reject them all.
A total rejection of perceived coercive religious frameworks. And there's a direct link to current events.
Explicitly, the source states the poem was written after looking into Gaza, what's happening there, connecting contemporary suffering to historical atrocities, WWII, the pervasive lots and lots of bloodshed.
The consistent theme being profound divine inaction. Every religion, every single god. They do not do anything at all.
Framing gods as constructs, just a way to cope because existing here is suffering. Religion as a psychological bandage for an inherently painful, indifferent reality.
Which raises that incredibly uncomfortable question. How do religious adherents reconcile this perceived inaction with their faith, especially when their own group suffers or when others suffer massively?
The source gives that chilling example, showing pictures of Gaza to a Christian person who might justify it saying, oh, but they worship Allah, they worship the wrong religion though, so they are suffering.
A stark illustration of how belief systems can rationalize horror, dehumanize victims through a religious lens.
But the source points out the glaring contradiction. What about Christians who suffered in WWII, natural disasters? Why didn't God save them? Why did they suffer? Is it also your God's plan, life plan, challenging the selective application of divine will?
And they recount that deeply unsettling conversation. A believer justifying the genocide happening now by stating Palestine was promised to Israelis, so Palestinians should just have left. That's why they're being bombed.
Which, for the source, is a shocking example of brainwashing and NPC behavior, how narratives override basic empathy, critical thinking, justifying horrific violence.
Reinforcing that NPC theory, reciting established narratives instead of independent, compassionate thought.
And the concept of chosen people, chosen land, debunked as nonsense.
Explained as stolen and renamed from older religions. Mythologies, not original revelations, but repurposed narratives.
The implication, whoever is writing the books, they are part of the small chosen people, writing the books for themselves, putting themselves as the priority, a self-serving construction.
Pointing to the Goyim example in some texts where non-Jews are not even treated like normal people. Evidence of how texts create divisions, foster otherness, prejudice, hate.
The stark conclusion, the religions, separates people, creates hate, justifies their suffering. The more you think about or look into all the history and wars, the more you will hate religions.
Reconnecting to that NTC theory, the source saw similar patterns during the pandemic. The observation, most of the people do not have their own sense of morality, discernment whatsoever. They are like NPCs.
The mask analogy illustrates this. Walking without a mask shocked others, not primarily out of health concerns, but because you are not afraid, you are not in line, you are not under control, and that thing shocks them.
Implying conformity driven less by rational understanding, more by adherence to a collective script, fear of deviating.
A fascinating, unsettling interpretation of social conformity suggests much collective behavior stems from discomfort when someone deviates, not genuine concern.
Leading to that profound reflection on a higher power, or lack thereof. Sharing that woman's quote, "If I could stop a person from harming a child, I would. That's the difference between me and your God.
Wow. He watches and says, I'm shutting the door and you go ahead and harm that child, and when you're done, I'm going to punish you.
A stark contrast between human empathy and perceived divine inaction. If God's just watch atrocities promising only karma or hell in the afterlife, what's the point when suffering is now?
Challenges the benevolence, omnipotence, efficacy of a deity passively observing injustice, promising only delayed punishment.
The Adam and Eve story re-examined too. Always find a way to blame the woman. More importantly, questioning God's omnipotence. Doesn't your God already know that they will eat the apple? Why the test?
And God said they'd die, but instead they got knowledge, discernment, morality, implying God kept them ignorant, like a lab experiment, like rats.
Concluding, any God that sends people to hell just because they didn't worship or give money is not worth worshiping at all.
And touching on the commercialization of fear, mega pastors, end-time preachers. It's a big business, actually.
A quick money thing, money scam, multi-level marketing-like thing.
Yeah.
Exploiting fears, pointing to random earthquakes as signs, manipulating events for money and loyalty.
Describing different types. Good lovey-dovey pastors, scaring the shit out of people pastors, motivating ones promising a divine plan, all serving to keep people tethered.
Which leads back to that challenge. How do we justify suffering in this divine plan? People born with genetic issues, blindness, suffering daily. Is that also part of God's divine plan?
Challenging the idea all suffering serves a grand purpose, especially seeing funerals. Did all of them have a fulfilling life? Probably not. Was that God's divine plan, just to strike their family member and take them away forever?
A direct confrontation with harsh realities and often unsatisfying religious explanations.
We've certainly covered a vast, challenging landscape today. From personal battles with perfectionism to collective struggles against manipulation, unexamined belief.
Yeah, a lot to process.
The threads running through it all, the old lady suffering, the Dahmer paradox, the realities in Gaza, they all point back to one core, powerful message from our source.
And what's truly fascinating is that consistent, empowering call to free yourself from religion if you can.
Right. The overarching message, keep questioning stuff. Follow your intuition. The source, the energy is already within you. You don't have to go and find a God to worship. Look within.
It's this message of radical self-reliance, isn't it? Embrace internal wisdom, personal discernment as the ultimate guide.
And it extends to rejecting societal pressure, external comparison, urging you, don't follow something just because society is pushing it, just because you feel left alone and wish to fit in.
With that blunt assessment, society is full of morons. You don't have to fit with them. Walk alone if you have to. A call to embrace individuality, even if it means standing apart.
Also emphasizing, do not compare your life with others online, reminding us it's mostly curated pretense, fake lifestyles. Instead, focus on your own lane, your own authentic will.
Constantly asking yourself, do you actually want it, or do you want others to see you having it?
So as you go about your week, we encourage you to reflect on this. If the freedom to think, to question, to fearlessly follow your own intuition is truly our most powerful gift.
What unspoken truths might you uncover about yourself, your beliefs, the world around you?
By simply daring to look and to truly discern what stands out to you.